G'day Bomber fans, so we've had some more match sim over the weekend on the usual Saturday. It was for the most part very pleasing according to everyone there. I will touch on the pleasing aspects, tell you what those at the ground saw, but there is of course an addition to the injury list. Our smallest injury list in years has gotten slightly bigger. Not a disaster, but I will talk about the Ben Hobbs issue and how long we can expect to see him out for before I get to the good news, I guess, seeing as this is the title of the video. Alrighty, so it flew under the radar on the day, but at some stage during match sim, Ben Hobbs hobbled off clutching his shoulder and obviously spent the rest of the day in the hangar before being hauled off for scans or whatever they do for shoulders, and it was confirmed that he had damaged his AC joint, not his ACL, don't stress, but his AC joint in his shoulder. Now, these injuries can be pretty nasty when they're bad. They are pretty much your standard shoulder type of injury when you land awkwardly on an extended arm or crunched in a tackle. The AC joint is at the top of the shoulder, right next to the collarbone. It sounds scary, all these words, but his injury is minor. He has luckily avoided any serious damage, and we should only expect to see Hobbs sidelined for a couple of weeks. So it's good news. Never good to see a player injured pre-season, but the fact where we're talking about this injury and not something worse, we are very lucky. Hobbs is very lucky. The midfielder can still do work away from the contest in training to keep his fitness up to standard, and I guess there would even be a slight chance for him to play against St Kilda in the practice match, but I don't think he will. If it was mid-season, maybe. I don't know, but he won't be risked this early in a meaningless game. He, like Shield, will be aiming for minutes in that official warm-up against the Cats at GMHBA, I would say. So it's a very, very minor injury. This actually happened last year, not this exact injury, but Hobbs had a muscle injury from memory around this time, just a few weeks before we were set to play our first practice game. He ended up taking a slow route to recovery, playing round 5 or 6 in the season, but even then, that was a leg injury. I don't remember what exactly it meant for his fitness, but it took a hit, so this won't really be the case as much with an upper body issue. So it's not good news, but it's not horrible. This is manageable, especially because we have a deep engine room as it is. Hobbs is injured, but not out for too long, it seems. Other injury news, I had an injury update video on Friday, so go check that out, but to sum it up, Draper is keen to play round 1. He's progressing well. Shield is aiming to get game time in for the practice game against Geelong in February, but that would be limited minutes. Tex Wanganeen is there, he's just texting. There were some small knocks to a few players who sat out the high-intensity elements of training. Ridley, Cox, no real big issues to worry about, I think, though. Everything is progressing well. Even Jaden Hunter was on his bike just vibing out. So, although Hobbs would like to have stayed fit, all in all, the injury list is still one we would have wished to have this time last year. Fingers crossed it stays like that. Alrighty, on to some other things from the last week of training. The match sims have started to become harder to read as the club really focuses on how the team looks and functions. So, the two sides that play in these match simulations are often pretty lopsided in terms of personnel now. People wonder why this is. It's because Scott and his crew are trying to understand how zones look and work together in match play. So you'll often see the best engine room combo all together just to build chemistry and develop an understanding. Same with defense and forward line, the other zones. It does make it harder to know how some guys play because, they're playing against players that are much worse than them in some cases. But even, for example, with Nate Caddy, people have been annoyed because he's been put on the lower quality team, which means he doesn't really get a look up forward anymore. But to be fair, he's had enough time to shine this preseason as it is, so I don't think he'll be complaining too much. But there isn't much longer of this because in a couple of weeks we will see our full strength team going up against other AFL teams as we prepare for the season. It's all well and good seeing players dominate in preseason against VFL players in some cases, but it means nothing if they can't do the same against other AFL teams. In saying that, there are some players that people are pretty hyped about after the most recent match sim, so I'm going to highlight them before I leave you. Alrighty, so Junior and Parrish were superb, apparently, albeit against a lower quality midfield. Setterfield got heaped a fair bit of praise by Nick Martin and fans alike. That would just be perfect to have Setterfield up and about. I know a lot of you guys love him. I'm still not 100% convinced because we've barely seen him play, but if he can have a full year and be that big presence in the guts, I'd be over the moon. We can't win a finals game with a midfield as small as we have. I think that's just the truth. We all know that. So Setters needs to stay fit and keep his form up. I think he's made it clearer to a lot of fans that Sartas is probably a fair way off being a cemented first team option, because Sartas I can see being that taller option eventually. He's more of a presence than Hobbs and Caldwell. But Setterfield just looks like a rounded player that we could do with in bigger games. For now at least, he also gives us that option to fall back on in defence. We often saw him float back late in games. And speaking of Late in match sim, we did see in endgame practice Langford thrown back to lend a hand in defence. That isn't new. We saw it at times last year. I remember he played full defensive minutes in round 1, and we thought that was his position because of how well he read the ball. But he was training there again, which I guess lets us know what's going to happen in some red zone games. He isn't a stranger to the back line. I'm sure we're going to see him late in games in 2024 at some stage. Nick Martin is pretty much the go-to guy in defence. It's definitely a thing. We will see him line up in the back line come the practice matches. It might shock a few Bomber fans that haven't been paying attention this preseason, but everyone who has seen it has absolutely loved it. He's a ball magnet. He's always seeked out to distribute out of the back line. It'll make us a more damaging, rebounding team. He takes kick-ins too. He is one of our best and smartest ball users, so having him in defence will make us a better team going forward, higher up the ground. I just wonder how good his defensive craft will be. That's the only thing I'm slightly worried about. Nick Hind, he was swapped and gone up forward from defence. He is making a case for being our starting pressure forward. Spots for the forward line are hard to come by. There's only room for one of Guelphy, Perkins and Hind, I would say. Menzies, sorry, not Perkins. And Hind was the best of the lot in the recent match sim. He kicked a few goals, showed good pressure apparently, so he's looking right at home up forward. Keep in mind, he started his AFL career there when he played for St Kilda, so it isn't exactly new territory for him either. Scott even pushed him up there at times last year to good effect, and if you think back to last year when we had a debutant in Davey and Menzies to choose from, now we have those guys plus Guelphy who is fit and Nick Hind and even Jaden Davey waiting in the wings, so it's really promising our forward line right now. There's a lot more to choose from at least. The wings are looking strong. Durham and Dersma both amongst the best on ground names in the last 2 match sims. Dersma in particular is impressive considering he came back from that injury in a new environment. Durham's actually playing a lot of inside midfield minutes, I should say. I still see him on a wing come round 1. I think our midfield is deep enough as it is, but it's something to note. And Jake Kelly on a wing as well. He is right in the mix for round 1. He's being used heaps. He's always been really fit and strong and would certainly be a serviceable option in the team if needed. I personally prefer him down back, but he has that experience and he has apparently been one of the more vocal guys this preseason. That is something else I've heard actually. We've apparently, as a team, created a lot more noise and chatter around during training compared to this time last year, which I think can be attributed to the stability, I guess. Last year we were with a new coach and captain. It can take a while for them to settle in, but now there is apparently more unity and communication, which is it's excellent, obviously, so that's exactly what you want to hear. It comes from guys like Heppel, who aren't on the leadership group but have that experience. Goldie as well. He was supposedly one of the better performers in the match sim in the absence of Draper, Todd Goldstein. He's shown to those who doubted where he fits in that and in the team, and he's clearly ahead of Nick Bryan for game day spots. It's a pretty strong list at the moment, where we're set to learn a lot about the hierarchy when those squads for the practice games are announced. I'm really keen for that because as of now, there's still plenty of unanswered questions. And also, before I go, get around Mason Redmond's challenge charity haircut thing. It's for a good cause. That's about it though. Quick injury update that turned into more of a training update. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and as always, go Bombers.